Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Saira Mujtaba and with me is Renuka, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi launches two innovative customer-centric initiatives of RBI, says digital transactions in India jumped 19 times in last 7 years. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal says FDI in India growing rapidly over the last few years, invites South Korean entrepreneurs to invest in defense and retail sectors. 1,500 Indian pilgrims to visit Kartarpur Sahib in Pakistan during Gurpurab. India issues new list of guidelines for international arrivals. Foreign ministries of India and Vietnam hold strategic dialogue virtually. COP26 Climate Summit in Glasgow to conclude today. And Myanmar military court sentences US journalist Danny Fenster to 11 years in jail for breaching immigration law. As India created history by administering over 100 crore vaccine doses against COVID-19, All India Radio salutes all doctors, nurses, frontline workers and all those who got vaccinated and made this possible. Even though the country has achieved this feat, we caution our listeners that the battle against COVID is not yet over. We appeal to our listeners to get fully vaccinated at the earliest and also help others get vaccinated. During the festival season, please follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 01123978046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday virtually launched 2 innovative customer-centric initiatives of Reserve Bank of India, the Retail Direct Scheme and the Reserve Bank Integrated Ombudsman Scheme. Speaking on the occasion, the Prime Minister said the schemes will expand the scope for investment in the country while making access to capital markets easier and more secure for investors.
आज जिन 2 योजनाओं को लॉन्च किया गया है, उनसे देश में निवेश के दायरे का विस्तार होगा और कैपिटल मार्केट्स को एक्सेस करना निवेशकों के लिए अधिक आसान, अधिक सुरक्षित बनेगा। रिटेल डायरेक्ट स्कीम में देश के छोटे निवेशकों को गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज में इन्वेस्टमेंट का सरल और सुरक्षित माध्यम मिल गया है। इसी प्रकार इंटीग्रेटेड अम्बर्समेंट लोकपाल स्कीम के बैंकिंग सेक्टर में वन नेशन वन एम्बर्समेंट ये सिस्टम ने आज साकार रूप लिया है। इससे बैंक कस्टमर्स की हर शिकायत, हर समस्या का समाधान समय पर बिना परेशानी को हो सकेगा।
The Prime Minister said one of the biggest touchstones of any democracy is the strength of its grievance redressal system. Retail Direct Scheme has given small investors in the country a simple and safe medium of investment in government securities.
मेरा स्पष्ट मत है कि लोकतंत्र की सबसे बड़ी ताकत आप ग्रीवेंस रिड्रेसल सिस्टम में कितने मजबूत हैं, कितने संवेदनशील हैं, कितने प्रोएक्टिव हैं, वही तो लोकतंत्र की सबसे बड़ी कसौटी है। साथियों, अर्थव्यवस्था में सभी की भागीदारी को प्रमोट करने की जो भावना है, उसको रिटेल डायरेक्ट स्कीम नई ऊंचाई देने वाली। देश के विकास में गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज मार्केट की अहम भूमिका से आमतौर पर लोग परिचित हैं। विशेष रूप से आज जब देश अपने फिजिकल और डिजिटल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को आधुनिक बनाने में जुटा है, अभूतपूर्व इन्वेस्टमेंट कर रहा है, तब छोटे से छोटे निवेशक का प्रयास और सहयोग, भागीदारी बहुत काम आने वाले हैं।
Mr. Modi said in just 7 years, India has jumped 19 times in terms of digital transactions. He said today's country's banking system is operational 24 hours, 7 days and 12 months, anytime, anywhere in the country. Mr. Modi said due to government's measures, the governance of banks is improving and the trust in this system is getting stronger among the depositors. He said in the past few years, in the country's banking sector, reforms ranging from inclusion in the financial sector to technological integration has been carried out. Mr. Modi said to counter cases of cyber fraud, RBI has made use of artificial intelligence in a big way. The Prime Minister said, as a regulator, RBI is maintaining regular dialogues with other financial institutions. He praised the Finance Ministry and institutions like RBI for their efforts during the COVID pandemic. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has said that foreign direct investment (FDI) in India has been growing rapidly over the last few years. Virtually addressing the 4th edition of the India-Korea Business Partnership Forum in New Delhi, Mr. Goyal said India has today become an attractive and preferred destination for investments. He invited South Korean entrepreneurs to invest in new sectors like defense and retail. The minister said there is a need to complement the strengths in automobiles, textiles, food processing, leather products, metals, mining, chemicals, and also through some of the traditional sectors like steel, and look at new emerging opportunities in defense, e-commerce, and retail. He said Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Make in India initiative is complemented by Korean President Moon Jae-in's New Southern Policy. Mr. Goyal said many Korean companies have leveraged the opportunities that India has to offer to make in India for the world using the competitive and comparative advantages of skilled manpower, low-cost manufacturing and the government support that is provided for businesses in India.
The 11th round of political consultations and the 8th round of strategic dialogue between the foreign ministers of India and Vietnam was held online today. The Indian side was led by Secretary East in Ministry of External Affairs Riva Ganguly Das, and Vietnamese side was led by Vice Foreign Minister Nguyen Quoc Dung. Both sides reviewed the recent developments in India-Vietnam Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, guided by the joint vision for peace, prosperity and people adopted by the Prime Ministers of India and Vietnam during their virtual summit in December last year, and the plan of action for 2021 to 23, signed by their foreign ministers. The two sides agreed to enhance their bilateral cooperation in line with India's Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative and the ASEAN's outlook on Indo-Pacific to achieve shared security, prosperity and growth for all in the region. The centre has said that 1,500 Indian pilgrims will visit Kartarpur Sahib in Pakistan this Guru Purab. External Affairs Ministry spokesman Arindam Bagchi expressed hope that Pakistan will facilitate the visit of around 1,500 Indian pilgrims to that country through the Atari Wagah transit point in view of Guru Purab. Mr. Bagchi said the visit will be covered under the 1974 bilateral protocol between India and Pakistan on visits to religious shrines. The pilgrims are scheduled to visit Gurudwara Darbar Sahib, Gurudwara Kartarpur Sahib, Gurudwara Panja Sahib, Gurudwara Dehra Sahib, Gurudwara Nankana Sahib and Gurudwara Sacha Sauda from 17th to 26th of November. In November 2019, India and Pakistan threw open at the Kartarpur corridor linking Dera Baba Sahib in Gurdaspur in India with the Gurudwara Kartarpur Sahib in Pakistan in a historic people-to-people initiative. Kartarpur Sahib Gurdwara is located in Pakistan's Narawal district across the river Ravi, about 4 kilometers from the Dera Baba Nanak shrine. It is the final resting place of Sikh faith's founder, Guru Nanak Dev, who had spent the last 18 years of his life in Kartarpur.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on push to electric mobility in India, a step towards clean energy. In conversation are Jyoti Malhotra, MD, Volvo Cars, and Renu Kataria, AIR correspondent.
The automotive future is electric. That is what we have been hearing these days. Why do we need electric mobility and what are the benefits of electric vehicles?
Well, you're absolutely right. Everybody is saying that the future is going to be electric, and all the mobility, whether it is in two-wheelers or commercial vehicles or even cars, are going to slowly move towards electrification. Basically, the reason behind this transition is largely driven by sustainability. And as all companies, as all governments, as all authorities are becoming more and more conscious, and even customers are becoming more conscious, there is a definite movement towards electrification. And one of the clean energies or the new energies that is being talked about, which has now emerged and has come to a level where there is a maturity, and this can be now made available to customers in different forms. of usage in mobility, whether it is two-wheelers or commercial vehicles or cars. So I think this transition, the time has now come where we are very close to this transition to really take shape.
So when we talk about electric mobility, we are also talking about the consumers. How will the consumers economically benefit from electric vehicles, or how will the electric vehicles change the economy?
Over a period of time, if you really see the benefits of electric vehicles for a consumer is going to be largely driven by saving in fuel. Electric mobility, whether it is again two-wheelers or any of these vehicles including cars, can be charged very easily at either your home or at some public infrastructure which is now coming up. And I think the cost benefit to a consumer lies in this overall benefit of what we call as cost of ownership, the cost of initial car or initial vehicle plus fuel and maintenance. If you put everything together, so the cost of ownership for electric vehicles is going to be very beneficial for the customer, and hence that's the big advantage that a consumer will have in terms of choosing electric vehicle over normal what we call as IC engine vehicle. And some of these things will take time, especially in India. The Indian government has taken a lot of good steps in terms of supporting this transition, whether it is in form of tax benefits in form of GST or they're in form of state governments announcing benefits on road tax. I think with all these things put together, when you look at from a consumer perspective, what consumer gets is very big advantage when it comes to cost of ownership over a period of time of a electric car over IC engine car.
So we are coming to the incentive part. We know that the electric vehicle manufacturing is becoming popular every day. Its market share is also expected to rise greatly. And government also announced that the cost of the electric vehicles in India will drop to the level of petrol vehicles in the next coming 2 years. The GST is only 5% on electric vehicles, and battery cost is also declining. So how will these government incentives boost the electric mobility sector in India?
Absolutely right. So I think what is the most important thing now is that government has sort of nudged the whole industry towards moving to electrification of the mobility. And every day we hear senior ministers and the various authorities in the government very clearly defining the direction in terms of what they really want to do. And the statement that you spoke about is, I think right now everybody's talking about it. And I think with all these incentives in place, now the onus is on the industry to work backwards and ensure that we can sort of really live up to this challenge. It's not easy because the cost of this new technology is quite high, but with all the incentives which are available, I'm sure that will help to bridge the gap and sort of bring electric vehicles closer to IC engine over a period of time. It's not going to happen overnight, but over a period of time, yes. That's what I think is the future, and that's what the government is also nudging us towards.
Another question is, will a switch to the electric mobility be a growth opportunity for jobs and especially for the automotive sector?
In my view, what will happen is that with this transition, we will see a lot of new vistas opening up as far as the economy is concerned. There will be new ways that these vehicles will be adopted. There will be new ways these vehicles will be sold. There will be new ways these vehicles will be serviced. There will be new ways these vehicles will be charged. So I think it will open up all the various new vistas of economic progress, and it will help to, for sure, I think, boost overall economy. And obviously, especially with sustainability at the core.
The electric vehicle battery contains lithium and rare earths, which are very limited resources. So can the lithium contained in electric vehicle batteries be recycled?
This is a technology which is now emerging, and there are a lot of research going on in terms of how various types of advanced electrification can happen. And I think there is a lot of research going on with respect to different types of material that can be used. But in the end, since sustainability is important, it is going to be, as we also understand, we are sort of going to promote what is called the circular economy. So we will explore the ways by which this whole ecosystem can become circular, and various input materials that are used, whether they are in battery or in any other things, are recyclable. And I think that's going to happen.
How can India gain, and what can India gain from electric vehicle recycling when we talk of recycling?
See, it is not just about the recycling part, but I think overall there is a lot that can happen. I think the government is talking about promoting, making India as an electric vehicle hub, whether it is from the industrial side or whether it is from consumer side. I see a lot of benefit accruing from that. And whether you talk about the incentives which we spoke about earlier, from whether it is from a GST perspective or FAME 2, which was announced earlier, or from local state governments announcing various tax benefits, all these together with now there is a lot of support which government is talking about in terms of PLI, all these things put together will promote and ensure that India becomes electric vehicle hub, and that will help the economy in a very big way. That's how I look at it.
We know that the electric car or the electric mobility can reduce zero emission. We are talking about the tailpipe emissions over here. We know that the tailpipe emissions are a serious threat to humans and environmental health. How will the electric vehicles reduce tailpipe emissions, and how will the electric vehicles solve the issue of dependency on fossil fuels?
Electric vehicles will for sure reduce the dependency on the fossil fuel. And one of the key things here is that as we progress, the source of electricity also is going to become very, very important. If you look at the government is also now parallelly promoting solar power, wind energy, and so many other things. And I think that is how the whole thing will work out. And that's why we say India has a lot of potential when it comes to solar energy. India has a lot of potential when it comes to wind energy, how we can leverage all this and reduce our dependency on fossil fuel, thereby using these type of energy, sustainable energy for charging of these cars. And I think the scale of economy will really promote and ensure that we are now able to create an overall sustainability while using electric vehicles.
So when we talk of electrification and we are talking about electric mobility, when we talk about transport electrification, be it the railways or be it the automotive sector, do you think the health benefit can really be linked to the boosting of transport's electrification? Is it a positive sign?
Absolutely. The benefits will, including many of those benefits are going to be also related to health, because you see the emissions from various ways. When we say using fossil fuel or using coal for our energy generation, when we talk about electrification, it's not just about what is being used in the car alone. It has to be around how this whole ecosystem is going to work. And the whole ecosystem will become sustainable, and obviously that will mean that it will accrue a benefit to the health for the larger population.
Volvo electric cars that we've heard are going to be in. So what is the new line of pure electric and plug-in hybrid cars, and what types of hybrid cars are there which the Volvo company is manufacturing?
So for India, we have plans to bring in our what we call as BEV, battery electric vehicles. They are pure electric cars, and the first one is going to be XC40 Recharge. XC40 Recharge is going to be available in India somewhere in the next year, and that will be our first car that we will introduce in India. Thereafter, we have plans to bring one electric car almost every year from there on. And that is how we will move towards more and more electrification. Globally, Volvo has announced that by 2025, 50% of all cars that we sell are going to be electrified. And we believe in India, we are on that same path. If possible, if things go in the right way, we could do it even higher than that.
And what kind of infrastructure are you looking at when we say electric mobility for Indian cars in India?
Yeah, so if you see the infrastructure perspective, I think the biggest challenge is about setting up a charging infrastructure. If you really break it down, there are largely three levels of infrastructure that is required. One level is the public infrastructure, on which I think government is working out. I've seen a handbook prepared by the Ministry of Power with, I think, very elaborate measures as to how that can be done. And we have seen a constant acceleration in that direction. So the public infrastructure is being taken care by the government, and I think it is going to really come up very fast is what we believe. The second one is what we call as home infrastructure or the home charging, which is where I believe the initial adoption will ensure that whether people are buying a two-wheeler or they're buying a car or they're buying anything which is for personal usage, we will see a charging infrastructure being set up at their home, in their premises, whether it is their workplace. So that is what we call as a home charging. That will come up very fast because it is almost like when people buy a mobile phone, there is a charger which sort of comes along with it. It's going to be similar. So when you buy an electric vehicle, you will have to have a charging readily available at your home to ensure that you work on it. And then the third one is what we call as a retailer charging. And retailer charging is about all the people who are in the chain of retailing electric vehicles. They will also set up an infrastructure parallel to public and home infrastructure. So our focus is largely to ensure that all of our customers have adequate home charging, and we are going to support it also through the retailer charging. We have a strong belief based on, I think, what government has announced, that public charging infrastructure will also come up very fast. That's, I think, how I see this whole thing developing.
So we're talking about the cars, and we also would like to know from you, what is the difference between a mild hybrid, a full hybrid, and a plug-in hybrid, and how do these help in environment?
They are all mild hybrid, plug-in hybrid and pure electric. These are the three things you're talking about. Let me first talk about mild hybrid. In a mild hybrid, what happens is, apart from the IC engine, you have a small electric motor. And that electric motor, in a way, as you brake or as you sort of move the car, sort of gives some energy back to support the IC engine, which means it is a little more fuel efficient and it is a little less polluting. So there is a positive impact on fuel efficiency as well as a positive impact on the sustainability. But it is very little. So that's the mild hybrid. And our current offering in petrol cars, we have now our new XC60, our new S90, and very shortly we will also have our new XC90. These are all mild hybrid petrol cars. So these are the mild hybrid ones. Then as far as plug-in hybrids are concerned, they are like, I think, next level of electrification in the sense that they have an IC engine, but they also have charging battery and all packed to support, but they have limited range. So, but there the advantage is you can move from ICE engine to electric engine and vice versa depending on your availability of charge and fuel. But again, the range is very limited. We have offered a XC90 in plug-in hybrid in India and we have seen a good success, but our focus now and as being promoted by government is on the battery electric vehicles. And we believe because that is, when we talk about the overall sustainability perspective, battery electric vehicles are pure electric. There is no IC engine in that at all. It is purely driven by an electric engine and electric battery. The government also has very clearly defined the benefits are available on what we call BEVs, battery electric vehicles. That is where the future is going to be.
We very truly say that the future of the automotive is electric, where we are embarking on e-mobility. Thank you for joining.
Right, ma'am. Thank you so much.
The COP26 Climate Summit in Glasgow is concluding today. The parties work to achieve the completion of Paris Agreement implementation guidelines, the mobilization of climate finance, actions to strengthen climate adaptation, and technology development. On the final day, the COP26 will be arriving at an agreement which may focus on adaptation, helping countries deal with the effects of climate change and finance. As far as India is concerned, it will achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2070 and reduce 1 billion tons of carbon emissions from the total projected emissions by 2030. Delivering the national statement at the World Leaders Summit of COP26 in Glasgow, Prime Minister Modi said India will bring its non-fossil energy capacity to 500 gigawatts by 2030 and it will fulfill 50% of its energy requirement through renewable energy by 2030.
क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस को लेकर आज तक किए गए वायदे खोखले ही साबित हुए हैं। जब हम सभी क्लाइमेट एक्शन पर अपने एम्बिशन बढ़ा रहे हैं, तब क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस पर विश्व के एम्बिशन वही नहीं रह सकते जो पेरिस एग्रीमेंट के समय थे। आज जब भारत ने एक नए कमिटमेंट और एक नई ऊर्जा के साथ आगे बढ़ने का संकल्प लिया है, तो ऐसे समय में क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस और लो कॉस्ट क्लाइमेट टेक्नोलॉजी का ट्रांसफर और महत्वपूर्ण हो जाता है। भारत की अपेक्षा है कि विकसित देश जल्द से जल्द $1 ट्रिलियन का क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस उपलब्ध कराए।
The Union Health Ministry has issued a new list of guidelines for international arrivals, which will become effective from Friday. According to the new guidelines, all travellers will have to submit self-declaration form on the online Air Suvidha portal www.newdelhiairport.in before the scheduled travel. They should upload a negative COVID-19 RT-PCR report and the test should have been conducted within 72 hours of undertaking the journey. Airlines to allow boarding by only those passengers who have filled in the self-declaration form on the Air Suvidha portal and uploaded the negative RT-PCR test report. A delegation of U.S. Congress led by Senator John Cornyn today met External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar in New Delhi. In a tweet, Dr. Jaishankar said, during the meeting there was a productive exchange of views on bilateral cooperation and regional issues, including Indo-Pacific and Afghanistan. This is All India Radio giving you the world news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
A Myanmar military court has sentenced U.S. journalist Danny Fenster to 11 years in jail. Fenster was found guilty of breaching immigration law, unlawful association, and encouraging dissent against the military. Earlier this week, he was slapped with 2 additional charges of sedition and terrorism, which carry a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. His trial on the new charges will begin on 16th of November. His sentencing today comes months after a Japanese freelance journalist, Yuki Kitazumi, was arrested in Myanmar and charged with spreading fake news. The 52nd International Film Festival of India, IFFI, has announced its prestigious lineup of entries for the international competition section. Out of the 15 films included in the competition, Bangladeshi film No Ground Beneath the Feet is also there. Our special correspondent from Dhaka has filed this report.
Bangladeshi film Paer Tole Mati Nai, or No Ground Beneath the Feet, directed by Mohammad Rabi Mridha, has been included in the international competition section of the 52nd International Film Festival of India to be held at Goa between 20th to 28th November. This is Bangladeshi director Mohammad Rabi Mridha's feature debut. It stars Mustafa Munawar, Priyam Archie and Dipanwita Martin. Paer Tole Mati Nai narrates the life story of an ordinary man who walks through conflicts in his life involving work, family and morality. Earlier, this film was selected for the 26th Busan International Film Festival held in October. Rajesh Jha, AIR News, Dhaka.
And now the news from the world of business.
Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange surged 767 points, 1.3% to 60,687. Nifty at the National Stock Exchange gained 229 points, 1.3% to close above the 18,000 level at 18,103. At the foreign exchange market, the rupee appreciated by 8 paise to 74 rupees and 44 paise against the US dollar. Among the global markets, most key Asian markets rose today as a shock from a surprisingly strong US inflation reading ebbed, with investors hopeful that the worst price hikes could be over soon. Japan's Nikkei 225 index gained 0.6%. China's Shanghai Japan's Nikkei 225 index surged 1.1%. South Korea's Kospi index jumped nearly 1.5%. China's Shanghai Composite index gained 0.2%. And Hong Kong's Hang Seng index rose 0.3%. The Singapore Straits Times index lost 0.3%. In European markets, the trading was mixed. London's FTSE 100 had lost 0.3%. The France's CAC 40 rose 0.2%. And Germany's DAX was up 0.1% in intraday trade. Global crude oil prices fell, wiping out gains from the previous session as the dollar continued to gain on bets the U.S. Central Bank will bring forward plans to rates to tame inflation. Brent crude oil futures dropped 86 cents to $82 a barrel. U.S. crude fell $1.01 to $80.58 a barrel. Both benchmark crude contracts are poised to end the week lower. Back home on the multi-commodity exchange, gold futures for December rose 0.3% to trade at 49,058 rupees per 10 grams. Arjun Chaudhary for World News, All India Radio.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. Washington Post reports Iran-backed Yemen forces breach U.S. Embassy compound in Sana'a, detain local employees. New York Times says airlines limit flights to Belarus to slow flow of migrants to EU borders. Khaleej Time reports UAE to host Global Climate Summit COP28 in 2023.
A quick look at the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi launches two innovative customer-centric initiatives of RBI, says digital transactions in India jumped 19 times in the last 7 years. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal says FDI in India growing rapidly over the last few years, invites South Korean entrepreneurs to invest in defense and retail sectors. 1,500 Indian pilgrims to visit Kartarpur Sahib in Pakistan during Gurpurab. India issues new list of guidelines for international arrivals. Foreign ministries of India and Vietnam hold strategic dialogue virtually. COP26 Climate Summit in Glasgow to conclude today. And Myanmar military court sentences US journalist Danny Fenster to 11 years in jail for breaching immigration law. India is celebrating the 152nd birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let's listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Azerbaijan.
सकल लोक मां सहुने वंदे निंदा ना करे के नीरे सकल लोक मां.
And with that we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.